All right. Here we go with another Ashes of Creation Dev live stream update. I'm actually going back through the 70 or so that they've produced so far. This one was made about a year ago. This is the Gathering update. Let's see what we noticed that I didn't notice before when I watched it way back when. And
hello, everyone, and welcome
changed?
to
Hello,
another glorious live stream day. I'm
It
super
is
excited to
glorious.
be with you guys, show you what we've been working on, and I have the absolute privilege of being joined by two of our stellar developers helping bring the world of Vera to life for all of us. One of our glorious designers, Mr. Corey. How are you doing, Corey?
Like the light.
I'm doing great. Super excited to be here.
Excited to have you here. I'm excited to go through with the community and get some awesome feedback on the changes that have happened since Alpha 1 last year to a lot of
So
our
we're 2 years out from Alpha 1.
resource systems, to the economy as a whole. And I know that you and the other designers have been working hard, looking at the feedback that players have given from recent games they've played, and thinking about how, with further details along some of our systems like land management and how they've influenced some of these changes since Alpha 1. And we are also joined by one of our absolutely phenomenal senior gameplay engineers, Mr. Alex. How you doing, buddy?
Mr. Alex.
I'm doing pretty well. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you as well, because, of course, the magic lives in the code. And you have done an awesome job in helping design, bring to life the desires that they have for this system. And we're going to get into, I think, some fun discussion about what it took to make some of this stuff possible. So, as some of you out in the community may already be aware, this live stream, this demonstration is going to be about our gathering and harvesting systems. And, you know, while we are hard at work and getting things ready for Alpha 2,
it should be interesting.
There have been some significant changes in the direction of how we're approaching general harvestables within the world, and we want to be able to obviously show you guys that. I think, you know, right now we're recording this on Thursday, so this is pre-recorded. Tomorrow is a live stream day. I've asked the community team to prepare some of the older references from Alpha 1 and what gathering looked like there, and of course you guys knew that you know, in development, we're always showing you guys works in progress, and those works in progress change over time. And now you guys are going to get an opportunity to see
little fog.
Where it's at now. You likely just saw an example of where it was last year.
I dig the costume.
And I think you are going to be pleasantly surprised and excited to see some of these changes. Where do you guys think we should start first, Alex?
It's
Corey?
the boots with the fur.
Well, I think we should lop down one of those trees.
I think so, though.
Okay, so my first question, Corey. Do I have to pick a specific tree, or can I chop down any of these trees?
Oh, look at that water over there. Oh, my God.
You can chop down any tree you want. Just pick one that you like, and
Which
just
tree
take that
shall
lumber.
that?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm
All
here,
right, so
lucky tree.
that is probably the first major reveal, is that in Ashes of Creation, we have now expanded the resource gathering system to include
What are those red marks up there
a
on the
great
minimap?
many of what the world
Enemies?
is showing you of these resources. So when you see a tree, you can chop a tree. If
There you
you
go.
see a rock, you can mine a rock. And before we actually chop this tree down, I want to tell you that I have played a lot of MMOs. I've played a lot of games. And I don't think I have ever seen a tree fall to this high of a visual fidelity
They have
standard
showed this off a lot since this
before.
stream.
And let me
It's in
just
the
chop this
caravan
down,
stream.
and then we can talk about what it took to get here. All right? Does this tree look good? Should we chop this one down?
Cool,
How's
let's
the
talk
angle here? We're
physics.
going to get a nice
Let's do it.
view from this
Look
angle.
at
All
that
right, all
water.
right, let's just chop it.
I love the new UI.
Oh, I know.
Personally,
And the sound.
I think
Get ready.
chopping a tree ought
It's
to be,
happening.
the time should be scaled.
Oh! Oh my
by
gosh.
the size of the tree.
Look at the dust kick
It'll probably
up.
happen.
Look at the canopy of the tree get impacted and when it
Nice.
falls. Wait, that's not all. As it dissolves, it comes back and it grows.
I don't know if I like the
And
dissolving.
of course, we are speeding up this growth stage, right, Alex?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So we're speeding this up
I'll
now
talk
just
about
to
it at
give
the
you
end.
guys an idea of how these assets regrow in the world. And Alex, talk to me a little bit about what it took to get that physics-based collision actually working like that, because that was impressive.
Oh, let me just begin with the amount of visibility reviews we had to go through in order to achieve this.
I remember when I first talked to you about having the canopy get rigged and and actually have that physics component. I think your eyes grew like 50% wider.
Yeah, no big deal. Just a small job.
Physics is a wild beast. It's very hard to tame, especially in MMOs.
Yeah, absolutely. So what exactly did it take to make that canopy fold like that?
Well, yeah. Basically, what happens is
Some napkin
when you
math,
chop down the
no big
tree, we swap out the static mesh which you see in front of you to a skeletal mesh, which then we simulate physics and apply force to the direction we want the tree to fall. And when the tree falls down, we have colliders
Okay, those red marks are
tree
in.
branches that impact the ground. And as that impacts the ground, it also impacts the stem of the tree and making this effect that you just saw.
This might make my physics class
I
more
mean, it
interesting.
looks
Just
great.
thinking about that.
Honestly, I mean, have you guys ever played an MMO with that type of tree?
I do like the
visual
regrowth on
falling?
the tree. Wow.
I don't know, not really.
I think this is the one where they get
Definitely
into the scarcity
Usually just
too.
mostly animations, or it just converts straight
Like
into lumber,
over-harvesting.
and then it just drops.
Yeah, what I'm accustomed to is like just watching the branches kind of, intersect through the ground, after it falls, and then it just disappears. But of course, as you guys know, in building Ashes, we're really aiming for a very high visual fidelity bar. And I think this type of system really complements that goal. It's incredibly immersive. And it feels
It's
good.
pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
Now, of course, this stuff is all a work in progress still, right? This is this is going to land. Let's see that physics. Okay. That's not bad. That's pretty good.
It is.
This is where I was telling you about taming the physics.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much going on in this
that
game.
felt pretty good. Now, of course, there's a lot that goes into
Who's that big guy?
making a world that's filled with this amount of resources that can be gathered.
Oh, yeah,
Corey,
those are all
talk
enemies.
to me a little bit about what this change in really widening up the amount of resources and changing those classifications to general resources that are harvestable. What does that look like from an economy design perspective?
Well, I mean, it allows us to leverage some of our other systems. Like one of our previous live streams was about seasons, right? And
God, I can't wait to get back to
the
that
changes that could come from seasons.
Yes.
What could be growing? What could be dropping in this season versus another one, right? So the change to have everything that you see gatherable kind of allows us to attach the changes that you see
Well, it
during the
makes the world
seasons
real.
to all the gatherables that you see. So the information that you learn from season to season and about each gatherable will be valuable to you as a gatherer.
Right.
And
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing is, when we talk about, like, for example, looking at this rock here, I don't know what that rock is before I actually complete the harvest. But after I complete
like
the harvest,
that.
I see that I collected basalt in the bottom right-hand
I
corner.
like it.
Talk to me a little bit about kind of that decision and what that means.
yeah, totally. So there's a bunch of different things in Ashes that will be gatherable, right? We have plants and trees and rocks and fish and that animals and creatures that can be tamed, right? And
Sounds like lyrics
you
to
know,
a song that's vaguely familiar.
we're thinking to reach the visual fidelity bar and to have things a little bit more rooted in what we know.
Plants and
Is
trees
that
and
it
rocks
wouldn't
and
really make
things.
sense for
What
you
is
to
that?
just see gold all over the world the same way that you would like plants and trees. So we wanted to get feedback on what players think about some of the different gatherable types having kind of different things that you would have to know and expect from them.
It
So
should take some
rocks
time
are
to
a good
harvest a tree
example of
like
this,
that.
where you can see a rock, but until you crack that thing open,
Like until
you
you've
don't know if
swung
it's
an
still
axe, you're not
stone,
going to appreciate
crystals, rubies, gold.
it. It should take some time.
So we wanted to try that out with some of our gatherables to have players have to open the thing up, and that's not to say that players won't stumble on a nice lode or vein or geode of gold. But most of the stuff that they would find in the world, unless they look hard enough, would require them to crack that stone open.
Right. And
Okay.
of course, there are additional systems, some that we haven't really gone into too much detail on, but as an example, surveying can play a key role in helping players to identify locations of rare resources within an area. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Talk to me a little bit about surveying.
Yeah, so surveying is a way that players can check out an area for resources. Players can learn where resources are that are static and that grow back in the same location. But we'll also have resources in Ashes that can spawn anywhere.
I like the
So
spawn
surveying
anywhere.
will
I
help
hate
players
static.
locate those resources. So if they're looking for something specific, they can hunt them down.
Like even in a very
Surveying
localized
will
area,
also,
it should not
allow
grow
players
right
to
back in that
uncover
same
hidden
spot.
resources that players wouldn't be able to see with their naked eye. Another thing that surveying would provide is some of the information that we were talking about before, right? Like for instance, if you survey and inside of your survey area, there's plants. You might learn when that plant, what season that plant likes to grow in. You might learn whether it likes to be watered during the winter versus how it likes to be watered in the summer. You might learn.
I see that the interior of this rock now has ore in it.
Yeah, see, you found one with some iron. So not all those rocks are just slabs of basalt. You might find some iron.
I suspect
gold,
the surveying is going to be a
we'll
big
see.
skill.
Oh, that is super cool. This one was also iron. Very nice.
Yeah, it looks like you found a little iron deposit there.
And so when players interact with the survey system, talk to me a little bit about what that interaction looks like. What exactly does the survey gameplay layer feel like?
Yeah, so you'd work with a surveying tool, and you set the surveying tool down, and that tool would have a specific area in which it's able to uncover and extract information about the resources that are in the area. So
the environment,
as a starting out gatherer, you might end up with one of the tools, right? But as you progress and become more proficient with using the tool, you might be able to set up additional pylons and extend the area of your survey.
More pylons.
Yes, pylons. So, right, and so that allows you to start kind of making shapes and having more strategic areas that you're surveying, right? If you could connect multiple pylons to create a shape,
so much better than
you could follow the
No Man's Sky, where you just blast
the twisting caverns of a cave. Maybe if you're out in the open like we are here, you could just try and make yourself a nice widened shape to scan as much of the area as possible. So it'll be up to the player to be tricky with their surveying tool to try and get the most efficiency out of their
it's going
survey.
to have to be really good at
Okay,
filtering.
I would like to point out one thing, is that are these apple bushes? I'm collecting apples, and they're like from a bush.
They are from a bush.
That is awesome.
Hey, this is Vera.
I know.
Make our own rules here, Chief.
There are apples that grow on bushes. So the survey system, I think, is one that's really cool because it also all is a part of this kind of cohesive land management system, right? Is that resources spawn at a set rate, and that rate can be influenced by how other players are interfacing with the resource system within a given area.
This is fascinating.
And if there is a high traffic and a high volume of interaction that is yielding these general resources or more specific and bespoke resources, then that can have a deleterious effect on the land management score of the area. And how does that affect the resource spawn?
Yeah, it could be positive or negative or both simultaneously. So
we're gonna talk about that
the
later.
land health value, right, ties into the health of a specific ecosystem, and the ecosystem can kind of scale with different segment sizes of the world.
I think that's
the
going to
world
work
itself,
with grazing and
a
livestock
biome,
too.
maybe
It has
a
to.
node, maybe a player's freehold. And the things that a player does in those areas will contribute to health in a positive or negative way. So, doing something like
Glad to see
rotating
it.
your crops might increase the health of the land, because that's considered something good to do. And maybe apprehending or removing poachers that are overhunting a certain species.
That's what we're going to talk about
could be
afterward.
helpful
I think
to the
there's
health
going
of
to
the
be wars.
land. Maybe the mayor puts out a request for players to try and get rid of invasive species that are plants. Maybe they're overgrowing weed, and it's stopping other valuable
weed?
plants from growing. Yes.
Not Colorado weed.
And every action would feed into a positive thing in one area for the health of the land, but it could also have repercussions in another, right? If you overhunt predators, the prey have no predators picking them off. So the spawn rates of those those rabbits that the wolves usually take care of could go up. And maybe if you overhunt the rabbits, the wolves want to find another place to go. So,
tie this into the genetics that
health and land health
was being talked about in another video here
to
recently.
really root players into the world and learn about their surroundings, learn about what
you get a biology degree
repercussions
from
their actions have, and work together to work within and manipulate that system.
Right, are you telling me if my land management is poor and I cut down all the trees, my land will just be barren for like long periods of time?
Ooh.
Yeah, it could definitely extend.
Or if you
the
don't
amount of
harvest,
time,
you could have fires.
that it would take for what you want to grow back.
Oh, that's cool.
That is pretty cool. And that is
I want to see that
another
system.
component of how player activity or actions within the world have a visible and systemic effect on that world's economy. And that helps to simulate the ebb and flow of supply chains, of the prevalence in the locality of certain resources being depleted.
Oh, it's going to be crazy. The
and
economics of this
extended periods of time where the players
I'll have to check to see if they filled that position.
And that can spur the need for transiting materials
director
across
of
the
economics
world,
or
right?
whatever it was for Ashes.
Exactly.
That is pretty cool.
So you're saying I'm gonna have to travel to other nodes and steal their lumber?
Yep. Borrow, acquire.
Well, now that's a decision you need to make.
If you need any help with that, you can recruit me.
So I see here that we have a particular type of flower that I believe only spawns in winter. Is that right?
Nice.
Yeah, totally. This is the gloomy pros, and it's a beautiful flower, but it can only be found.
We saw some in another stream
in
that
winter,
only come out at night.
I love the I love the effect that that flower just got wrecked.
Yeah, that sickle's doing work.
I know. Let me see if we can watch that flower regrow here. Does it regrow? Flower.
See, it needs to pop in a slightly different spot.
Are you coming back, little flower? Oh, there it is! We found it. Oh, and it's in a
We
ball
gotta
state.
have random
I can't interact
location.
with it yet.
Like
That
even if
is
it's
so
just
cool.
off just a
It's
few
not
feet,
ready.
you gotta
You
have
want
it.
the petals, so.
Oh yeah, and then actually to add to this, each state has its own physics profile. Like you saw trees, like you saw the flowers right here, and some profiles might not have any collision, and some might have. So for example, as for trees, sapling stage requires no collision, but the young stage will have a collision which you no longer can
Okay.
go through.
Oh, that is pretty cool. Now, Slurpee, I mean, sorry. Slurpee is his gamer tag. Alex, talk to me a little bit about what you had to do to kind of make all of this performant, right? When you're creating an environment with so many of these terrain actors, these foliage actors being interactable, that can have some potential performance issues. How did you go about addressing that?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, you're correct. This is a very difficult task, and luckily for us, Unreal 4 and Unreal 5 provide tools for environment artists called Foliage tool, where you can just paint like trees, paint flowers, paint
That one went a lot crazy.
rocks, like everything you see, and it's very very performant because artists paint thousands of them, right? And to make the world very immersive, to make world believable. So what we've done is we basically used the same system and introduced a few states. And the main point of that was to make it as seamless as possible for environment art to place those assets in the world, and design being able to modify those data points to make it transition between states.
That's pretty cool. And, obviously when you have potentially hundreds of different players that might be within close proximity as you, and they're all in this environment interacting with those different elements of the terrain, those different resources and gatherables, this is a nice way for us to ensure that performance is still good.
Correct. I think the biggest thing would be here also networking, is being able to have as less data as possible to send to the clients, so it's more performant on the server.
That's cool. One other thing I
Yeah,
want to
they're
talk
gonna
about
have to monitor
is,
that with as many people as they want.
is you will see here, and I want to show you guys this, that when you chop down this tree, previously you had seen it kick up dust that was relevant for the season and the area, and now what happens when we chop this tree down in winter?
Be a little snow flurry,
see.
Steven.
I hope it doesn't hit the deer.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
unfortunate. I also hope it doesn't hit. Oh,
Or land on your head.
You're good, deer. Don't you worry.
Nice. The end of
Picks
that,
up snow.
having cut
So
trees
what is
down,
that?
that's pretty sick.
Is that a sandal? Is that a sandal scarecrow?
Oh my.
Looks like it.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
sandal scarecrow.
What is going
and
on
we're
at
in
the
face.
studio with the sandals?
I think there was a collision of the skeleton mesh that you were encountering.
That was cool. This is awesome. Oh, I love that. That is so cool. Little sandal scarecrow. Oh, and it's growing back. Yeah, that is super cool. So there are really two main points of player feedback from this demonstration that I want you guys in the community to think about
Okay.
when you are talking about what you saw today. The first one is, how do you guys feel about the change that is incorporating a much higher amount of gatherable gatherables in the environment, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, obviously, like I said, these are general resources that are primarily geared towards construction and development of nodes, the transit of materials across the world through caravans,
I want to talk about transit.
repairs, and then they are general resources that are used in a much more foundational way of creating higher tier mats that then get used in recipes as well. But how do you guys feel about that broadening of the resources available out in the wild? And then the second thing that we want to get feedback on. What was the second thing we wanted to get feedback on?
What was it, Steven?
The visual fidelity that we're trying to reach.
Oh, right. Yes, the visual fidelity. How do you guys feel about the visual fidelity
I have some notes on
of
that,
these
too.
trees and the rocks that are? Oh my gosh, this one is going to take a while.
I've got something for
Get
you.
ready.
That's a
for it.
big tree.
It's a
Timber.
Timber! Oh my gosh! Now, of course, there are some things that you guys are not seeing here because they're not yet implemented, but professions will, of course, introduce layers of accessibility based on the type of resource, the size of particular resources. Isn't that right, Corey?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, your progression within the profession will take account what tools you can use. There might even be some opportunity to do some gathering with other players. Typically in other games that I've played, you usually do the gathering alone. You're venturing around alone, and
Yeah, that
we
sucks.
wanted to take a look at maybe having a friend help you with a two-person saw on a larger tree.
Yep.
Maybe there's some panning that you could do.
It's going to have to
opposed
require
just hitting
other players.
ore with a pickaxe. So we'll have other tools that are part of that progression path, and then other activities that players can do if they would like to gather together.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to put a tree in your
That's
backpack.
pretty cool.
Sorry.
And then on top of that, progression within your profession can also speed up the gathering times that you have.
Nice.
And another important note is that, like, as these
I'm guessing this is
resources
accelerated
reach
on the
different
shopping time.
stages of their maturity and coming back, right? You see that plant kind of growing back. You could potentially access the resources at earlier stages as well by having high advancement within a certain profession. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. The speed, the time at which you're able to access them, maybe the amount that the thing yields, will all kind of tie into your expertise at that individual gathering profession, and also the things that you're using to do the gathering.
Oh,
Right.
can I highlight one additional thing?
Yeah.
I love the new UI for interaction.
Yeah, thank you so much to Colby and Natalie and Jeff and all the UI team. And I would take this opportunity to thank engineering and art
UI
at
is
Techart
so
too. Like,
important.
Stephen had mentioned that we came with the crazy idea of reaching this visual fidelity bar, and being a gathering player myself, like, I spend a whole lot of time exploring the world and doing gathering. And it means a whole lot to me that it looks good, that it feels good and roots me in the world, right? When players spend hundreds or thousands of hours exploring around, and each time they interact with these things over and over again, they just disappear, or there's not the level of touch that we're trying to put on here. It doesn't feel quite right. So the fact that everyone kind of rallied together to offer something like this, like,
Absolutely.
it just makes me super excited to
Cool.
play the game. I want to play the game.
I know.
I do want to play the game. You can send me my key anytime, Steven. Thank
That's
you.
it.
You guys
At
are
the end.
in the guts of it. Come on now. Okay. There is one other thing I want to talk about is also how you guys feel about the interaction of surveying with revealing resources within the world. And without that element, for example, what we showed you today with mining, you may not know what you're going to get until you complete that harvesting action. How are you guys feeling about that? We think that it creates an interesting dynamic between utilizing resources necessary to initiate that surveying sequence and what it represents for players as they choose to spend their time and or the meaningful choice they might make in moving to a particular area based on what resources are available in that location and discovering that through the surveying system. That's another point of feedback that we want to collect from you guys. So with that being said, are there anything else that you guys want to chat about before we close off?
Well, I don't know.
I think we covered it all. Just thanks for including me in the chat. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. can't wait to hear everyone's feedback. Super excited.
It's going to
Yeah,
be a
this
lot of
was-
fun.
Here it comes.
This was lots of fun. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch players interact with the new gathering systems as people get to, see how surveying and land management accompany player actions within the world. So with that being said, guys, we did want to give you this update on where gathering has come to now, both from a visual bar as well as give a little bit of insight to the new systems like surveying and land management. And we want you to chew on that. We want you to think about that and give us your feedback, both in the YouTube video, on Twitch, on our forums, on Discord, all the places. We, of course, appreciate that, and it is a very important step in bringing you guys
No,
out
these guys are
to
cool at
and
listening to
ultimately
feedback.
Ashes of Creation. So with that being said, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you back on stream.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Here's the afterthoughts on this stream. I tried to not interrupt too much through it. Tried to take some notes, but let me know if you like the format a little bit better. Surveying, he asked for feedback on that. I think it's going to be critical. Maybe it should just reflect like likelihood of what you might find, or a generalized area. Like if you had an arc of 30 degrees, directly in front of you, and somewhere within 100 meters, there's a 60% chance that you're going to find what they think might be gold ore. And that's obviously going to be skill based and profession based. I think that has to be tied into that. The seasonality of resources is just amazing. They've shown that in a couple more recent updates, which was really cool. You can't have, obviously, tomatoes growing all year, or your apple bushes, as the case may be. Here's one of the major things, and this is obvious, but I'm going to say it out loud. These resources are going to be the spark point for wars and clashes between nodes, guilds, any collection of players. It's going to be resources, because if you're coming in there and you're just ravaging the forest, and it doesn't respawn because you took too much for too long or too fast, whatever the parameters are, those are fighting words, son. It's gonna get spicy over these resources for sure. Definitely something that they want. It's gonna be dynamic. Getting the economy right, that'll be alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2 stuff. That I'm not concerned about, but that's gonna be so key to gameplay. I think it's understated. Like, they just mentioned it, but it's gonna be absolutely key to development of nodes and how the world's shaped and everything else. I don't even know what I wrote in my note here, but I think it was about the river. I'm seeing the river, so I'll just talk about this. I had a couple notes about this. In my mind, if you take down a big old tree like the one we're seeing right now, and you've got that river there, you should have to carry it on planks, cut it up in planks and carry it, or sections, whatever the case may be, and maybe put it on a raft on the river or on a caravan and carry that back. I have a huge problem with the games where it's like, hey, I chopped down a tree and I shoved it in my backpack. No, you didn't. And it's not about, don't give me the line about, realism and fantasy, but there's a certain amount of realism you do want in a game. And that also plays into economy and everything else. Like, I should not be able to, and we'll touch on this other players thing in a second, by myself, take a big old tree like we just saw and carry it back to town, a couple miles. I don't think that should be the way. Like, you should either have a team of mules or horse-like, beasts of burden that you can latch into that, and then, with chains and drag it back to town, something like that, or a caravan or a raft system. I think that has to be there. Same thing with ore. Like, you're not taking that whole boulder and, carrying 5 times. You're not an ant. You're not carrying 5-6 times your body weight in your backpack. That has to. That's got to be part of the game for me to really just be over the top cheerleader about it. That was one of the things. Large items. So I'll talk about the next note here. Was what you see right here with this chopping of the tree, I would like to see, and I know this is early progress, this isn't a criticism, it's just a suggestion. You're not using a steel chainsaw to go through this tree, you're using an axe. So they should wedge that tree out a little bit at a time and have the splinters flying. I mean, as much detail as these guys love, I could see them doing it. I really could. But just that flat line, and I think we'll see a tree later that was like, the cuts made like 4 foot above his head. Those are just little tiny details they need to iron out. Not a criticism. Okay, he asked for feedback on broadening the resources. Absolutely. Like, you know, you don't want to have 5 little spots where you know that you can always find X, whatever X may be. You want these resources variable and spread out across the map. And speaking of spread out, so one of the things is the spawning. When these resource respawn, it doesn't have to be like hundreds of feet away or anything, but I would like to see just a little drift, if you will, of where that resource pops up. And I don't know how you code that. I don't know how you do that. You're going to have boundaries, you know, with different seasons and environments, not seasons so much as in environments. I think you got to do that, though, because one of the things I hate, both with resource gathering and with enemies, is when you know the exact spot that they're going to spawn. It's dull. It makes it so bloody dull. Just my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, or if I should just let that one go. But I think they need to drift a little bit. There needs to be, even if it's within a range, a radius, like there needs to be some drift. And that should play into what they talked about with scarcity. Like, how much are you overusing it? Like, does the forest get overgrown and you need to cut more of it down, you know, to manage it so we don't have huge wildfires, etc. Other players, I think I already covered this enough, but I really do think on your heavier items, not your flowers and stuff, I get that. Throw that in your backpack, no problem. But ore and lumber, you need either other players and or, like I said, beast of burden, carts, wagons, the whole caravan system. I think you're going to see, if they do like I'm asking, and you have to have those things in rafts, it's going to be a bustling world, because you're not going to be able to be Jimmy that weighs 175 pounds running out here and carrying back, you know, 3 tons of ore. That's going to, I'll probably get hit for this one, but there are some things that you want some realism to, even in a fantasy game. Last thing, well, I guess I did cover everything, because he asked at the last little bit about the surveying. That I'm gonna wait till I have a little more experience in more modern MMOs before I comment. But No Man's Sky comes to mind, where you just send out that blast and it tells you where everything is at. Don't want that. I would pass on that. So hopefully these review videos are a little more informative. I've been playing a lot of Guild Wars 2 and Elder Scrolls Online, and pretty much any other game that can capture my interest to tide me over until I can weasel my way into the Ashes of Creation Alpha 2. We will continue to record these videos and dig back through the 70 or so updates. As the new updates come out, I need some feedback from you guys. Do you want me to do the whole dev update, or just the meat where they show in-game stuff? So far I've been doing just the in-game stuff, because I didn't want to make a 3-hour video, but I'll bore you with a 3-hour video if that's what you want to do. You know, because by the time we get it like a 2-hour update, and then you let me talk, that's kind of the direction that would go, and I'm cool with it. But please give me feedback down in the comments. You know, all the normal things to do: like and subscribe, share, do all these wonderful things, so that I am inspired to bring you more Ashes of Creation. Thank you again.